Alright guys, so we're going to be showing you real-time user-generated multi-platform 3D gaming, where you can actually play this. Apple just approved it on iOS, so we might actually get kicked out for actually doing this stuff. We're going to see what will happen. But the idea is you can drag and drop in new images, 3D models, and JavaScript, and it will just synchronize live on all the phones. Hello, my name is Dr. Miguel. I said that already. We're going to be talking about going multiplayer, supporting multiple platforms, why use MongoDB, and how we use MongoDB. Anyone know what MongoDB? Does anyone not know what MongoDB is? Okay, Mongo stands for humongous. The idea is storing loads of data, hence being a database. It uses the NoSQL philosophy. Does anyone know what NLSQL is? Anyone know what SQL is? Actually, pretty much no one knows. Basically, it's just like a database. No SQL just means not only SQL. So that's the concept. So what Guillaume was showing earlier was a stack similar to this one. He had Node.js, Socket.io running, and his web app. It's the common multiplayer stack. Google I/O have a talk from last year. It's got open source projects. I think it's called Rakes or something like that. The server's currently down though, which is sad, but it's open source so you can pull it. That's the traditional stack that you get. On the server, this is what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm using New Array, which is old. Basically, on the server, we're using a Socket.io library. We listen on port 4001. Listening just means I'm opening up a connection and saying, hey, contact me at 4001, just like a phone number. And whenever it receives a message connection, it adds the socket which is passed, which is the guy who gets connected, onto a list of sockets. He gives them a user ID, and then he emits the message connected with that user ID that he's just given. If you look at the client, at the bottom it says io.connect with the server URL. When it receives socket.onConnected, it has the user ID. So now it knows who I am, and the server knows who you are. Now there's a function at the bottom there that says shoot at. It says shoot at that user ID. And all that does is it emits a shoot message to another user ID. So in his game engine, he's got messages being passed, and this one's saying I'm going to shoot at that other user ID. On the server, it's just a messaging server, very, very basic. When it receives a shoot message, when it receives a shoot message, well, Parallels freaks out, but it just iterates through that for list and just emits the message shoot. So in the client side, they receive the message shoot and it plays out the action. Anyone confused by this? Seeing a lot of squinted faces.
Squinting is just trying to read it.
Oh, sorry. Wow, yeah, you guys got it tough. Okay, so why do you want to use a database? Basically, it's saving game events, for analytics, or if the server ever shuts down, you don't lose your high scores. So this, what happens here is the web app shoots fire, the server app, tells MongoDB, hey, save my event, it saves it in the table. Sorry, you guys probably can't see this really well. All you really want to be looking at is this part here. There's a JSON called game event, which passes in a user ID, the action shoot, the target ID, and we create a new date, time. To save this in MongoDB, you do db.collection, that tells you which table you want to save it to. They call table of collections. I'm calling it game events. And then you do collection.insert, game event, which is the JSON that I just made. You do that, and it will save it into the database. So next time you reload, you just ask the database, what are my game events, and you'll know it. Okay, I'll show you the little. Do you guys want to see a demo?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I'll show you a demo. I'm going to show you on the web for jokes. So this one is a game called Phone Wars. Sorry if you've seen it already. all we're going to be doing here is, it works on iOS and Android initially, that was the concept. And the idea was, that you have an iPhone character versus an Android character. So on the web, you get to play as a web bot, and on iOS, you get to play as an iOS character. That's the Android character. And we also, exclusively, we got a Windows Phone character. Ooh. Basically, those guys, they get to. That's a premium item. I'm not paying for this. No, you just have to tweet. You have to say like, "Yo, what's up? We love you." Just like Ian's game, without the awesome sound effects. There's another character here. There's a character here. And just like I said before, I shoot at that user ID. This guy on the right receives that message and replays the action. That's all it's doing there. And you can get excited, you can shoot people, you can have some fun. But this isn't what I want to show you. And we're running close to the end, so I just want to finish up all the technical stuff. HTML5 is awesome, but it's a bit slow. C++ is awesome, and it's everywhere, and it accesses GPUs, and it's fast. So, if you want to do a cross-platform support for this, what you can do is have, who here likes Java? Okay, well, you've got two people that love Java. Who loves Java servers? I know Guillaume has some hatred towards it, but you can have like maybe a Java-based server that talks to MongoDB, which has a sockets-based connection that uses C++ networking logic to talk to the native app. And you can have the JavaScript proxy, maybe has Node.js talking to the web stack that then passes the messages from the Java server to the Node server. That is one operation of doing things. Bad thing about that is, as Guillaume says, you have to replay all your coding. So if I make a change in JavaScript, I have to implement that change in Java, which introduces bugs, which introduces maintenance, which introduces potential tedious copy and pasting. But you can have a compiler which compiles Java into JavaScript, so there is ways around it, but still it's a bit of a headache. So there's a hybrid approach, which we talked about before. Basically, what the idea is, you can have a web app, which includes a JavaScript communication networking logic, and you have a native app that runs maybe JavaScript core or just a hidden web view, which talks to that JavaScript logic. So C++ is just talking to JavaScript, which handles the communication, and the web is talking to JavaScript, which handles the communication. That way you're just running things once. So we did this in a 24-hour hackathon just to prove that this concept was possible. We tried using Mongoose, which is a wrapper layer around MongoDB. If you hear about it, it sounds really good. The problem is there isn't that big of a community behind Mongoose compared to that of MongoDB. So it's a lot easier just to directly use MongoDB. Jansen is a C++ library if you want to be decoding JSON. I mean, JSON's very, very friendly. It's human readable if you're not human or a programmer. But it's a good library, I think, for C++, but it is slow, so don't use it in anything performance related. And asynchronous operations, one of the mistakes that the server guy was doing, well, not mistakes, is whenever we made a move, there was a latency of 250 milliseconds, which you can imagine that could be 3G, or you can imagine that to be Wi-Fi. But what that was is, we were passing the message to shoot the other character after the database API had given us the OK that it's been saved. Whereas, all we need to do is send the message to shoot while saving the database. So that way, we reduce that latency. It goes between 250 milliseconds to 50 milliseconds on 3G, and on Wi-Fi it's in like 2 to 8 milliseconds, that socket communication. Now, here's an example of how to talk from JavaScript to C++. I'm not going to go into it because we're almost out of time, but it is possible. These slides will be available. I think they're already available online on the MongoDB London website. So I'm going to skip this. This is just advanced stuff. Supporting Direct 3D if you want to support Windows 8. Basically, you have a wrapper around OpenGL commands. It's all the same sort of API. There's a project called Project Angle. This is led by Google. So you can just use that. Or if you want to learn about it, you can write it yourself. It's pretty simple. All I'm doing here is I've wrapped the GL enable commands, and I'm just converting the OpenGL commands into Direct 3D commands. So it's just different syntax. Sorry, that's crazy. I'm going to show you some cool stuff we can do. So when you've got this platform now, where JavaScript is running the show, and C++ is just used for the extra commands, you can do some really creative stuff. I'm going to just spend 2 minutes showing you some of the creative stuff you can do, which is still in show. So I'm going to go into our hidden B2 URL that you need to give us the email address to access. So if you saw in the beginning here, this was kind of like a gaming client where you've got multiple games. I've entered a game called Phone Group. I can easily, if I want to, create a new game. So I've got a game with the rock, which is the tree. With the rock. I'll show you the character on the left. Okay, so there's the rock. And he's going to be fighting Justin Bieber. I don't have a screenshot, but basically I'm going to hit publish. I'm going to say yes. And it should just appear on the games list. Now I'm showing you this in a web view, but this is actually on iOS, Android, Windows Phone. And it does support a BlackBerry and Titan. So it's pretty much everywhere in Firefox OS. So now that I've got this game, I'm going to enter it, and I can be the wonderful The Rock or the wonderful Justin Bieber. I'm going to go inside this maps list. I'm just going to quickly, okay, there's a map that I've already made called Playground. Just going to enter it. And here it's kind of like just an array of different assets. And there's Justin Bieber. And again, you can connect on your phone and other characters, but what you can also do is, you can like relay out the map, and in real time, it changes. And what's even slightly cooler, in my opinion, is my email account. I'm joking. I can, if I want to, I can drag and drop in new models. So there's a, okay, I'm going to go with the pumpkin since I know that one works for sure. I'm going to drag and drop it here. In the editor it's saying, let's create a prefab. So just like Yasu was showing in Unity, we're creating a prefab model. I'm creating it here. But the difference is, as soon as I say yes, it will synchronize it. It will actually download that model and update it inside the actual game. So there is no synchronization time of redeploying on the client. So now there's a way for you to drag and drop in new artwork, new 3D models. You don't need to redeploy the application, it will just appear on your phone. Now the next step I'll hop on that is what's slightly cooler. I think I've shown this quickly. I'm just going to close this just in case it causes trouble. I'm going to go inside this editor, which is in localhost. I'm going to refresh it. Oh, sorry. Just going to kill this. Okay. So I'm going to go inside a map called You Guys Rock. And I'm going to go inside a JavaScript-based client on an iPhone. Inside the map is You Guys Rock here. And it just has a bunny rabbit. So I've showed you the concept of drag and drop in 3D models. What I'm going to show you now is the concept of drag and drop in new source code. So I've got a JavaScript file. And all it is just, sorry about the code size, but all it is just incrementing the camera by a delta of 10 every single second. You can do a lot more, but this is just the example I'm showing. You can drag it up into the editor, and right now the camera starts rotating across the z-axis, the x-axis. As soon as I tick yes, those changes, those code changes have been propagated on not just my iPhone, but on any client that's connected to my game. Now, regarding the terms of service of the iOS Apple, I mean, potentially it's a no-go area, but we have lots of competitive platforms right now. We've got Firefox OS, we've got Tizen, we've got Android, we've got Windows Phone. And I've talked to these guys and they love it. I've talked to Apple about these guys. To actually get the iPhone versus Android application out in the App Store, it took 3 months of negotiation. They kept on telling us to tweak the models and to remove the Android character from the title screens. So this isn't a fake demo. I'm going to rotate it around the y-axis. And I'm just going to drag and drop it onto the editor so it appears again. And it starts spinning around the other way. As soon as I say yes, those changes will synchronize again on the iPhone. And you can pretty much just make whatever you want. This stuff is backed by the synchronization that saving onto the database gives you. So this stuff is saved. Finally, just wrapping this up, I go to explain how the editing of objects happens, but we're going to fast forward this. Going to go into some performance issues. Skip that. Why use MongoDB? The biggest plus, because there's back and forth about using it or not, but the biggest plus is there is back and forth about using it. There's so many articles explaining its irks, and there's so many articles explaining how to use it correctly. It has such a big community behind it, and it kind of gets out of your way unless you want to fight it. At first I was fighting it, because I hate databases, but I love C++ and that kind of stuff. But once you just say, hey, the server is going to have this tax, but that tax is going to relieve my programming pains, it's amazing. There's this great website called 10Gen Education, in which they run courses that train you up in using its API and how to run it on multiple servers and how to get the best usage out of it. It uses JSON and JavaScript, which is very web-friendly and cross-platform friendly. Again, you can shard it, which means you can split your database across multiple servers when it gets huge. And just really don't fight it, because I did at first and it's some bad stuff. So I'm going to just finish off right now. If you want to know more, again, the MongoDB conference is next week. We're also going to be in San Francisco at the Tizen Dev conference next month, giving a presentation more about using WebGL and WebSockets optimized for the phone. So that's something to think about.